Ready to wind down this Friday evening. Delilah had a delightful day today. We played frisbee today 2 times for about a half an hour on one and an hour on the other. And then we came in, and then I realized I have a plumbing issue. Yay me, right? Yay me. So I'll have to call the plumber when I get back from court on Tuesday. Anyways, I hope everybody's having a great time. We're going to be going over a few cases, updates on cases, and then we're going to get into Sebastian Rogers and the Sebastian Rogers case. But there's some cases that we are going crazy on here, and I want to just go over them real quick. Hey, Tara, it's nice to see you. Nice to see you guys. And the first one is the updates on Brian Kohberger. The last time we talked about Brian Kohberger's defense team was working on changing the venue and moving the entire case out of Moscow and into Ada County, into Boise, Idaho, so they could have, a fair trial, so to speak, citing mob mentality at Moscow courthouse. I think the logistics of Moscow courthouse are just too small for the case, personally speaking, without adding any additional stuff to it. So I just wanted to go ahead and read this statement here related to Brian Kohberger, the new information coming out. The defense team is now aiming to strike the death penalty. So Brian Kohberger was charged with killing 4 University of Idaho students, Kaylee Gonzalez, Maddie Mogan, Ethan Chapin, and Xander Kernodle in the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. And people were looking for the white Elantra. I got to tell you, when we first went there, there was I think when we first got there were starting to get rumors of this white Elantra, and we were looking around, but that wasn't really the reason for our first trip. The first trip was to try to calm some people down. Hello, Yvette. It's nice to see you. So defense attorneys for Brian Kohberger will attempt to remove the possibility he'd face the death penalty. A sentenced prosecutor plans to pursue if the jury finds him guilty of murder in the death of the 4 University of Idaho students in November 2022. Kohberger's defense team met a court deadline Thursday to file charges. The state's planned pursuit of capital punishment. The defense submitted 13 filings, which posted publicly to a state court website later in the day. The documents included thousands of pages, full arrangements, and citations of precedent. And Kohberger's attorney alleges that Idaho's various laws regarding the death penalty are unconstitutionally vague. I'm pretty sure that this is, the process that they have to go through for appellate purposes later down the road, because we know that these death penalty cases have been challenged many times in court, and the ones that are convicted, the death penalty is there. Prosecutors issued their intent last year to seek the death penalty against the 29-year-old accused killing of University of Idaho students. Prosecutors may now submit the responses to the defense's challenge by October 10th. The hearing on the death penalty issue is scheduled for November 7th. So those that are in the area, mark your calendars, November 7th. It sounds like there's going to be a new hearing. Tulips, it's nice to see you. Nice to see you. Kohberger is charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder in the fatal stabbing of the college students at an off-campus home on King Road in Moscow. The victims were Ethan Chapin, Xander Kernodle, both 20 years old, and Maddie Mogan and Kaylee Gonzalez, both 21. At the time, Kohberger was a graduate student at Washington State University. By the way, we were the first news organization that did a story in front of the Washington State University. Just thought I'd throw that out there, saying, is it a possibility? Yeah, it's a possibility. Near by Pullman, Washington, on a Idaho state line. He was arrested almost 7 weeks later at his parents' home in Pennsylvania in December 2022 and brought to Idaho to face charges. To sentence Kohberger to death, jurors would need to unanimously find that there or aggravating factors which include the occurrence of more than one killing at a time under Idaho law. Idaho's alternative sentence for first-degree murder is life in prison, which means the convicted defendant must serve at least 10 years before the chance of parole. That is scary. Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson, who leads the prosecution of Kohberger, cited 4 aggravating factors in his decision to pursue the death penalty, including that the 4 victims' deaths were especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity. The defendant also exhibited utter disregard for human life, Thompson said, as well as the propensity to commit murder, which will probably constitute a continuing threat to society. I couldn't agree more, Thompson wrote in a court filing. In its flurry of motions, Kohberger's defense moved to strike the aggravating factor, citing the Eighth Amendment prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment, saying the Idaho Supreme Court cannot place limiting construction on the statute. A statutory aggravating factor is unconstitutionally vague if it fails to furnish principled guidance for the choice between death and the lesser penalty, the filing said. Kohberger's defense also filed a motion to strike heinous, atrocious, or cruel aggravators on the multiple victim aggravator. This motion is made on grounds that the murder cannot be aggravated in the manner that makes an act malice aforethought murder aggravated. The filing to strike the multiple victims aggravator said. That is very confusing for many people that aren't familiar with this. So Kohberger's defense asked the court to strike that as well, saying murder cannot be predicated on a burglary predicated on a murder. That kind of makes sense. But I still think it's going to rise to the necessary level of, the DP. I really do. Hello, guys. It's nice to see you. I hope everybody is doing well tonight. We're going to be getting over into the Sebastian Rogers case, but this is just an update on some of the cases that we have covered, but we haven't talked about in a while. In a filing to break the proceeding into 3 parts, the defense said there should be separate culpability, eligibility, and sentencing phases rather than 2 phases. Culpability and penalty to not break them up would violate Kohberger's constitutional rights, his attorney said. The defense said that because the state will attempt to produce substantial evidence for aggravating factors, some of which may be considered non-statutory, such as victims' impact statements, hearsay, and information about Kohberger's past, then the non-statutory aggravation evidence should be presented during a separate hearing after the jury considers the issue of whether statutory aggravators apply. When jurors are emotionally overwhelmed by extensive victim impact evidence, they are likely to use the evidence and their grief for the victims to support statutory aggravators, even though it's unrelated, the defense wrote in Thursday's document. Well, that happens in every single case. So if that was in my opinion, if that was a fact, then we wouldn't have DP at all, which again doesn't make sense. What? Sluice Station? What happened? Reach out to me. Don't talk about it here. Reach out to me privately. Are you talking about with Facebook, or are you talking about it in real life? Holy crap. Ooh, I want Chinese. I ended up making chicken soup. Okay. I'm like, wait a minute, what happened? Oh, good gracious. Good gracious. Be careful out there. Hey. It's nice to see everyone. So, Kohberger appeared in court last week for a hearing over whether to move his capital murder trial out of Moscow on arguments from his attorney that he cannot get a fair trial there. They have asked the judge to change the venue to Boise, which prosecutors oppose. After the all-day hearing, judge acknowledged the choice is probably the most difficult decision I've ever had to make of his legal career. He said he would issue a ruling at a later time, so we don't have the ruling from that yet. Early this summer, judge scheduled Kohberger's trial to start June of 2025. I wouldn't mark your calendars just yet because obviously Ann C. Taylor is, putting up a fight. She's putting up a fight. She's fighting every little piece of information that comes out. Many of you guys have been very interested in the Appalachia High School school shooting, and what a sad realization of it. I don't know what's going on in this kid's life, but we're hearing, we all learned that his father was also arrested. And it kind of brings us to a topic of conversation, kind of with Ethan Crumbley. Is this appropriate for the parents to be arrested when their children commit these heinous acts? I was very skeptical with the Crumbleys, but once you hear, they were warned and they took the warning and put a gun in the child's hand. And it sounds like much of the same with this particular case. This was a kid that was on the FBI radar. This was a kid that had been literally sat down with local police and the FBI and his father about a prior threat. It's very concerning. And then we find out a few months later, his father does what? Puts an AR style weapon in his hand. Maybe he thought it would make him feel better to go out and blow some stuff up. But if parents are using this, which, there's two sides to the story, is it the right answer? Is it the wrong answer? I'm not going to get into that because I'm a 2A person. I don't believe that we blame vehicles. I don't believe we blame knives. I don't believe we blame any of the other things. Even, the like grenade, you know what I'm saying, like bomb like stuff. And we don't blame, we blame people. We blame people, but somehow when it comes to guns and firearms, we blame the firearms. This is a clear case where a child had some major problems and needed to go see someone, and instead was left untreated, it appears, and provided a weapon. Now that I have a problem with, especially in light, like, let's face it, you guys don't have the FBI knocking on your door. I don't have the FBI knocking on my door. So when a parent has the FBI knocking on their door saying these threats are coming from inside this home, why would you then go and buy your child? So I think that's what it is. But what I find problematic is that the father's charges almost seem worse than the son's charges. And I don't know how that's proper. They're just throwing, whatever to the wall to see if it sticks. And I don't think, looking at this realistically, I think they've overcharged him. I'm not a fan of stacking. I think stacking should be considered unconstitutional, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. But people like to stack charges, and the reason why they stack these charges is to make the most impact. That's why people that should normally get maybe 10 or 20 years are getting ridiculous sentences like 120 years. Like, say, for example, Turtle Boy, he's facing 120 years. It's because they're stacking. However, the person that was accused of murdering her boyfriend would not even face that kind of crime. And there was no violence with Turtle Boy. No violence at all. And it blows my mind. It blows my mind. But I just wanted to touch on that. We're not going to really get into it. I don't want to promote this type of stuff. I feel like when it's on the headlines, it makes other people, want to have the fame and notoriety, in my opinion. So I don't really cover them too much, nor am I going to put their faces up here. Cavalcanti was a little different. He was a inmate on the run. But I don't really cover a whole lot of school things. I don't know. It's awful for me. And this is a great example because Joppatown High School also had a shooting. It wasn't mass. It sounds like it was a disagreement. I don't know the details, but just from what I heard on the face, it sounds like it was a dispute, and the kid was shot in the bathroom, and the principal and everybody came running to it because everybody was right there, and were able to lend aid immediately. However, the damage was too far gone. The 15-year-old boy was transported over to the hospital where he was pronounced where he didn't make it, and a 16-year-old boy is now in custody. This is going to be another one. Where did he get the pew pew? Where did he get the gun? Is this a situation? Is this what kind of beef was this? It seemed more targeted, not like in Georgia. But again, it's one of the reasons why I really don't like covering those cases or putting faces up on there. I mean, even with the Uvalde, the thing, we did run a few stories on that, but it was really just a few stories until I got out there, years later. So, Crystal Rogers is a case that we've covered. This is a woman that disappeared on the 4th of July weekend in 2015. She was allegedly with Brooks Houck, her boyfriend at the time, the father of her son, her youngest son. She also had several children from previous relationships, and she just up and disappeared. And many people thought that because the Houcks have so much money, mom has a farm, Nick is, or not Nick, but Brooks is, he has millions of dollars in assets, so he's a millionaire as well. Nick was working for the Bardstown Police Department and not cooperating, and ended up losing his job for some variety of reasons. And it was here recently, they have now executed search warrants on a property owned by the Houcks, and they've been there for 3 straight days. They believe that this must be where she's at. We're bringing out the dogs. I've been monitoring this, but I haven't ran the story, so I wanted to make sure I ran the story. And so just give it a few moments. Let me get the commercial out of the way, and we'll get updated on Crystal Turner. She was a beautiful young lady. Her father ended up being unalive to search for her.
Here at 4 o'clock, a live look from Nelson County, where crews have just wrapped up day 3 in the search for Crystal Rogers' body. In the last hour, we have seen several trucks, SUVs,
any bigger than
trailers
this.
leaving that search site in Cox's Creek. The yellow tape is still up on parts of the property, but the Nelson County Sheriff says crews are done searching. They'll be back tomorrow to pack up the rest of the site. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Shay McAllister. Crystal Rogers is the missing mother of 5 from Bardstown, last seen alive July 4th weekend, 2015. 3 men have been arrested in connection to her disappearance. That's Brooks Houck, Steve
8
Lawson,
years later.
and Joseph Lawson. Today's search has ties to at least one of them. From above, the Sky 11 drone shows the intricate operation underway on Whitesides Road, a property formerly owned by Anna Whitesides, Brooks Houck's grandmother. Her involvement in the case called into question 8 years ago. When police pointed to her car as a possible piece of evidence, she's no longer alive. Thursday, special agents in FBI t-shirts and sun hats walked the grounds with tools and tarps in hand. The focus still on a small area near the property's tree line. Wednesday, that spot was covered by a tent. 24 hours later, agents seen with buckets in the very same spot. Backhoes busy again, digging up the land behind the house. According to the Nelson County Sheriff, the family that now owns the house is not connected and fully cooperating, giving the federal agency full access to search for the missing mother. As for what they'll find here, there's no guarantee we'll ever know. Every search warrant in this case has been sealed in court, but the sheriff says they are looking for Crystal's body, still not giving up hope of answering her family's plea to bring her home. The next court date in the Crystal Rogers case is scheduled for October.
And we've got other things going on in October. Leilani Simon is going to court related to Quentin Simon, and just some another, a whole host of uh, of other cases going on. We're going to have a busy end of the year on this channel. I have been wanting to get out and preview this case for a really long time and haven't made it over to Kentucky, but I absolutely want to. I want to see the location of where the farm is, where his great grandmother's property is, in conjunction with this. And I got some clarification on the Dee Warner's case. The anhydrous tanks, we looked at one that was smaller, that was portable. The one she was in was not portable. It was a big one, and I never knew what was in those tanks, but somebody broke it down. They're ammonia tanks. And so it looked like what had happened is somebody had taken something off of it and welded it shut and painted it. And they ended up, her brother started saying somebody needs to get inside those tanks. And sure enough, she was inside one of those tanks. But I know that a lot of people, were asking me, what is that? And I really didn't know what a anhydrous tank really was. I when I looked at it, it looked like a portable thing, and I didn't, I thought it seems like it would be visible through the clear plastic thing, but this is not what it was. Let me see if I can find it. It was just recently. I saw it, but I didn't run it. I should have ran the story just a little bit, but I think this is it. Maybe it is. I think it is. Yes, I think this is it. Let me find it. I don't want to play the whole thing. It's on Court TV. But, no, it's not. It's not. That was just his interview. They didn't put the tanks on here. Oh, this has to be the one. Maybe not. Dad burn it. I wanted you guys to see it. Maybe it's this one here. I wanted you guys to see the,
Welcome to Canada. Hop on board and
give me just a second. We'll watch this. I can skip it in about 11 seconds, and we'll just get updated on this one as well. There we go.
It was back in court today for the first time since.
This is just a 27th clip. I'll have to find it and show you. I want to show you those tanks because it was a pretty big tank that she was in. It wasn't that little thing that I showed you guys live on the show. When I finally saw them, I'm like, wow, this is pretty big. And I think they explained how it was opened and sealed as well. So I'll have to find that clip for you guys, but I don't have it on tap right now. And then Alec Murdaugh. Remember, I talk all the time about Alec Murdaugh. He is the case that just keeps on giving. Alec Murdaugh was a well-to-do, prominent figure in Low Country, South Carolina. His family had been the solicitor, which is basically the district attorney, prosecutor for the area for almost 100 years. Their family's going to go down in the history book as the longest serving family in American history up to that point. I don't know if anybody has superseded them yet. Well, he ended up being convicted of unaliving his wife and his son. But there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes than just that. Why would he do that? Well, in 2019, his son was intoxicated and hit a piling with his boat, which left one person that was in that boat deceased, and her name was Mallory Beach. But before that, his housekeeper took a dive and ended up losing her life, and Alec recommended that the son sue him and get the insurance funds, and that he would take over those insurance funds. Well, he squandered that money. And so he had set up, and he was squandering a lot of his client's money. and he set up this forged bank account, which was a forgery bank account for like an asset type of management company, an annuity company that manages these large settlements. And he was having cuts of money coming to him, if not the whole thing. And you're talking about millions of dollars. Well, the Mallory Beach case was about to blow the roof right off of his Ponzi, his scheme. And they were about to start diving into his financials, which would have unearthed that account, that forge account that he was embezzling all this money in. So he needed something really big to stop that intrusion into his finances. So I truly believe that Mallory Beach's civil case is a direct result of why his wife and son are not here. That's just my personal belief. Well, he has been convicted of their deaths. He's also been convicted of like 40 financial crimes. Maybe it's 20 financial crimes. They reduced it significantly. They gave him 40 years on top of the 2 life sentences he has. He's currently trying to appeal them. He's trying to he's taking the jury tampering to the Supreme Court, the South Carolina Supreme Court. But Hulu is about to make a movie, a documentary of this case, and I'm just learning in the last few hours, Patricia Arquette is going to star in the movie as the in the Murdaugh movies. And if you guys don't know who she is, there she is right there. So you might want to read about that. So we have a motion picture coming out related to this being produced by Hulu, and it's going to be on Hulu's platform. I know I got a lot of people in here that are Hulu, Hulu, whatever, right? So you might want to be on the lookout for that. If you guys hear of this documentary of the Murdaughs, let me know on Hulu. All right, guys, so here is the meat and potatoes of why we are here. We're here for Sebastian Rogers. He's a 15-year-old boy that disappeared from his home in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and has not been seen or heard from since. There's a lot of questions into his whereabouts. Nick the Hat and Dog the Bounty Hunter are just now getting into the case. They haven't been involved in this case for 7 months. They're starting from the ground up. A lot of people have sent me some emails asking me, do they know about this? Do they know about that? Do they know about this? I'm not going to provide them any information until they request what I've found or located. Here's why. Because everybody needs to go in with a fresh set of eyes without being biased in any way. Follow their own leads where their own leads follow them. You guys know how I am. Yeah, there could be 1,000 people that go before me that have done this or that or the other, right? And I'll still do it just to make sure that it's legit, just to make sure the information is factual. And I have to anticipate that that's what they're going to do as well. So right now they're starting at the ground floor. They don't really have a whole lot of information other than what their research has uncovered for them. It sounds like they've already talked to many agents that have been involved in this case and have better understandings than what we do because of their security company or something like that. And many people believe that, Sebastian has been hidden out somewhere. I know that we here on the Bullhorn Betty channel have exhausted a lot of things. We've called all the autistic centers across the United States. We've started reaching out to, churches. We've reached out to Amish communities. We've reached out to a lot of different places, and we understood that they may not be able to give us any information, but we want them to, look at Sebastian's face, and if they see him, please just call the FBI or TBI right away. So we've done all that. But when I was listening to his live, and I was in chat, and I said hi, I didn't want to distract too much, so I really, when I come in there, I just want you guys to know I'm listening, but I don't really conversate with you guys. It's not to be rude. It's just that that's that creator's live, and I don't want to be a distraction in any way, shape, or form. But I did ask some questions that I don't think he saw, and that's okay. But my question related, because it sounded like the way he was leaning is that there is a possibility of family that might be did you guys get that kind of, how many people, let me just ask this by a show of ones and twos, how many people watched Nick the Hat's live earlier today on YouTube? One if you have, two if you have not. We'll start there first. Hey True, hey my mod squad, be Betty, the real me too. It's good to see you guys. I used to check my email first thing in the morning. Now Sebastian's the first thing I check. Aw, that's sweet. Okay, so we do have a few people that were in there. Oh, come on. Well, I swear, I think you wait until I get online and you start stretching out. I just got to calm. So, okay, so a lot of people haven't. So I hope you guys get over there and watch it. For the people that have watched it, it seemed like he was implying, yeah, thank you, Linda. Yeah, she's right here. She's half in, half out. Did you guys seem like he was implying that he feels like there's a family member that might have Sebastian hiding him out? Was that kind of the gist that you're getting from his commentary? Because I'm just curious. Let me see. Hold on. Do I have this on all? Hold on. Let me put this on all. Yes. Okay. I've always felt being hidden to get back at Seth. I have never seen any parents willing to go through all this to hide a child, but God bless him. I hope he's right. You know, this would answer Seth's prayers. I'll tell you that. He's hiding out. I thought Nick was one-sided. Or the family put him somewhere safe. Because that's what it sounds like. So we've looked at all these things, but one thing we haven't looked at is the family dynamic. And, you know, where we've heard rumors, that, when did we hear it? Was it like around March or April, maybe April or May, that he might have been communicating with a grandmother that he wasn't supposed to be communicating with, or something to that effect? Do you guys remember that when it was going around? We didn't talk about it really on here because I couldn't corroborate it. But I know you guys were talking about it in chat. Do you guys remember that? So I'm not sure, I definitely, because the one thing we really haven't looked into is the family, and whether they would be holding this child. But one of my questions has always been, I think, and that's what some other people had sent me by email, I think one of my biggest questions when it came to him being, hidden out was, from my understanding, and I don't remember where I heard this, but from my understanding, I heard that law enforcement had no activity on the prescriptions. Does anybody remember hearing that? Okay. So that's my only concern is, I don't, he was on a medication for his chromosome deletion. Now, let me see what chromosome deletion, because I remember we talked about it back in the day. Chromosome deletion, you don't have to stretch out. Oh, I picked up, you don't have. Chromosome oops. Chromosome deletion. Yeah, we're just going to do the general thing. So a chromosome deletion is a type of mutation that occurs when part of the chromosome is missing or lost. Chromosomes are structured in the cells that contain DNA and genes, which provide instructions for how the body functions and looks. Some effects of chromosome deletion include birth defects, intellectual disabilities, physical development problems, and functional changes. The effects of chromosome deletion depends on the chromosome affected, the size of the deletion, and the genetic material that is missing. Deletions that are too small may be seen under a microscope are called microdeletions. And I can't remember which one he is. And I remember talking about it, but that's kind of where it is. Now, his medication, from what I understand, is very, very, very expensive and very rare. A very rare medication. So, what I guess my question is, what toll would that have on his body if, say, he didn't take it for, a day or two or weeks or months? What does that start doing to him and due to his body? Because that's where my brain is. Aw, hey, Casual Christy, it's nice to see you. I can't see him. I would hope they'd look into his prescription history. I think they had, is it me or my? I think they have, because I remember hearing the rumor that there has been no refills on the prescription or something to that effect. Now, I don't know who I heard that from, but I remember hearing it, and I believe it was on a Facebook group, which makes it hard. That's why we really didn't talk about it. But I would like to I would like to work it and see if it holds water, so to speak. But does anybody know what failing to take that medication would do to the body? Well, let me just ask Google. Maybe they would know. Hold on. What happens to somebody if they fail to take their chromosome deletion medication? It doesn't. I don't really see any articles for not taking. Does anybody know what would happen? I'm interested in that, because I don't know what would happen. Maybe somebody else. I know his type of chromosome deletion is rare. I don't know if all chromosome deletions are rare or if it's just his particular type. And if somebody has any experience with it, I surely would like some information. The prescriptions were not life-sustaining, it seems. Seth didn't believe in it. Okay, you're right. You're right. Well, I think that was for his when he was diagnosed with autism. Because I was studying his, because I can't remember what it was now, but I did remember what type of chromosome deletion he had previously. And I remember I don't know. I remember there being something about it making it difficult to find autism or other types of those types of, like ADHD and stuff like that. It makes it very difficult to determine what's the chromosome deletion versus something else. And he was just recently diagnosed with the autism. So I understand the medication isn't life sustaining, but would that have been with his chromosome deletion medication, or would that have been with the, the autistic medication, or would that be with the medication that helps him sleep? There's several. It sounds like there might be several different medications. Chromosome is a big deal. Kids don't function like normal kids when there's a chromosome problem. Okay, thank you, True Psychic. Just a thought, has anyone considered someone close to Nina, not pointing fingers, but what would a desperate mom or son? I don't think Nina is concerned about this case too. I mean, I don't think Nina, this is just, I deal with behaviors of people. I don't think Nina would have come forward if it wasn't for her concern of Sebastian. and her concern because she knows how abusive her ex was, according to her story. So I guess it's possible. You don't want to take anything off that, but she just doesn't. I mean, she doesn't seem like a type of person that would do that. And not only that, she's in New Mexico. Like, she's the furthest person away, and the only reason why she was in Tennessee was for her ex. So it's like, I don't. It's anything's possible, but the probability of that might be a lot lower than just in my opinion. I remember CP saying that Sebastian hasn't had his meds in 20 days. I don't know. That's probably what triggered that then. Okay, so that's probably why I remember that. That might be it. Thank you. Thank you, Cody's voice. It does me too, Pam T. It does me too. Seth has this as well. Why are so many people hard on him? It's genetic. I don't know if he has the chromosome deletion, but I know he has other medical ailments, so to speak, and other disabilities. But yes, he's a disabled father looking for his disabled son, in my opinion. Depending on how long it's in his system. Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's interesting because that's always been my hiccup when it comes to this case is the medication. And we know that how is he sleeping? Because like Seth said, he does sleepy time tea for him at his house, but at his mom's house, it sounds like he takes some medication to help ease him into sleep. How is he sleeping without any of that? I guess is the question. Or maybe he is getting some. I just don't understand. That's the only part I don't understand. But it sounds like they're going down the realm of him being potentially with a family member. It sounded like. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but that kind of sounded like what he was trying to say. I don't believe in scientific labeling. That's good. I would think it would get worse. I'll research it. Yes, thank you, Linda. I'm just curious because I can't find anything quickly, what happens to somebody when they stop taking that type of medication, It seems like you would have some type of dependency on it, if you will, after taking any medication, I think after taking any medication for a significant amount of time, your body becomes dependent upon that medication. If being held, he need not adhere to any sleep schedule. That's a good point, Green Jules. I told my mom about this part earlier after she picked me up from the and it was going off about your arrest. He's out there without his meds. What's going on with that? Couldn't he even be more? I'm not sure. Because it's my understanding that medication helps calm. Maybe I'm wrong. I may have to reach out. My parents in here that deal with autistic children, you might have to reach out to me and educate me. You don't have to tell me what kind of medication your child's on, but just educate me on what the medication does. That would help me understand a little bit more. But isn't the medication to help them concentrate or to help them I guess I'm ignorant on it. So somebody's going to have to inform me. So you guys know the drill, bullhornbetty@gmail.com. Tell me what you guys have that would help me understand the medication and what the medication does. And if it's for them to calm them down or if it's more for concentration purposes, what is it for? I guess is my question. Dog only went with the initial traditional custody battles being the motive for the parental abduction. He doesn't know Katie was in an agreement. Sebastian was going to Seth's full time. Yeah, I think he's going to find out more. I think he's only had like one conversation with Seth. That's it. And like I said, they're putting new eyes on this. I don't want to sway that right now. I want them to get through their investigation, and then once they're through it, then I think that would be a great time for questions like, what about the medication? No medication. What about this? What about that? And so they can start digging into those questions and finding out where those lead them. There's nothing worse than trying to get into a case and everybody's throwing all this information that hasn't really been corroborated or anything like that, or you don't know where the information comes from. I know the stuff that I was able to corroborate, and I know the stuff that I was still unable to corroborate. So I when I come into it, I have to kind of clear my brain. I have to go back to a blank page, if you will, and start from scratch, review everything that, from law enforcement, from the parents, from, other professionals, their guidance on behaviors and stuff like that. Research other cases that have some of the similar circumstances, and see what the outcome was those, and what happened in those cases. And I've got to be honest with you, I love Nick and Dog's spirit, where they believe that he is alive. That's got to give Seth and all the people that have been believing he was alive, rooting, it gives them a new wind in their sails. It gives them hope. It gives us all hope to hear these things coming out of their mouths. And again, like Nick said, they're just starting in. They don't know what happened yet. They're just getting their boots wet, so to speak. So I want them to get their boots wet before anything is kind of given to them or questioned about, because they just need to get, in my opinion, just a good understanding of the case. And it sounds like they're getting some they're having a good working relationship with law enforcement, and we want that to blossom, because at the end of the day, it matters about bringing Sebastian home safe. But if we can't bring him home safe, making sure the people that did this to him are held accountable, that's really the name of the game. We want the best outcome possible. I'm a statistical person. So I look at statistics, and to be honest with you, the statistics on this case are very grim, So having this new team kind of coming in and willing to look at this and put, not just instill confidence, so to speak, but to give people hope that there could be an alternative, finding in this. And I'm hoping that the alternative wins. Like I said, I want to be wrong in all these cases. I want to be as wrong can be in every single one of these cases, because when I'm wrong, that means a positive outcome comes out of it, But doing this for as long as I do, I side with a lot of statistics, not necessarily with my heart, my mind, my soul. It's just very analytical to me, and that's what drives me to look in certain spots. It's hard, because I do stick to the statistics, and just because the statistics say one thing, there's still other portions of that statistics that say just the opposite. So, I'm praying that it is just the opposite. But I think with them coming in and having that approach, Terry Lynn working on the ground approach, and me starting to identify and starting to work on bridges and waterways and identify potential areas of search, I think that it's really being hit by all fronts. I really think that this is going to be very impactful. I really think that we're going to be, everybody doing their part. We're going to clear a lot of stuff out. But it's just, you guys know, I know, I feel in my heart, I know what I'm looking for when I find it in the bridge. So I really want to get out there and look at all the bridges. There's 390 bridges. There's no way I'm going to be able to do 390 bridges and review them in, it'd probably take me 2 or 3 months to go through all of the bridges. So it's going to be one of these things where I'm going to be strategically looking out. We have ground zero, which you should always start at ground zero and work out from ground zero. We know that law enforcement penetrated and covered a 5 mile radius, a huge piece, a chunk of radius, right? And we know that it's been searched multiple times. And we know that it's also been searched by private searchers as well. So in my mind, whether, it's hard, but, because you always want to start at ground zero and work yourself out. But it's easier to acknowledge that it has been searched and searched. Now, one thing that happened today, and I know people have brought it up over and over again, that feel like me. There was a case of a girl. She was found years later. I saw it in the news, but I didn't really cover it. Let me see. And this is not the one, this is not the, no, it's not coming up. It was a beautiful girl too, and she's been missing for years. And they did find her, and they found her in a drainage pipe or drainage something related to drainage. And of course, I pulled that up, and there's a lot of people that are found in storm drains and stuff like that. Crews find a woman's body near Fort Myers in May 2024. Authorities identify a woman found in drainage in Tucson. A 5-year-old found in a sewage drain. So I know a lot of people brought those up too. But, and of course, Caleb Harris, this was one out of Corpus Christi in Texas, again, that they believe was in a drainage at some point before he migrated to where he ended up being. Is that a possibility? I don't know. And if it is, where do we look? That is the question. So I'm going to look at the bridges, because I think the drainage or the piping or stuff like that, I feel like that's labor intensive. That's going to be way labor intensive, and I'm going to have to get with Seth for the drainage, but there is just something that pops up, and it just keeps popping up in my when I'm reading, and I don't know where I'm reading this stuff at, but it's weird how things you start noticing a theme, and I always feel like that is like, the universe speaking sometimes. You never hear about these things, and then it's like boom, 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 right? And so it always makes me second guess whether it's possible that the drainages have not been checked. We don't know the name of the medications, nor I don't know if it well, I guess it might it might make a difference. I don't know. Hey, SPED teacher, nice to see you. That's what I was wondering. I'm familiar with meds for the condition. You named it. Let me see. What did you say? There's no medication for autism, but there are medicines for ADHD and anxiety and depression, which could go... Oh, okay. Interesting. So we may have multiple things that they might be treating him for in conjunction. Okay, to help with his... Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. To be honest with you, I've been brought up to speed about the autism. It was a lot of great parents that have been watching the show, that have been taking a major interest in the Sebastian Rogers case that have really guided me and, helped me understand about the condition. I don't know anybody that has it that I'm aware of. So I've never really had the experience of autism. I think my cousin, when he was younger, was diagnosed with ADHD, and they put him on Ritalin, and he didn't like it. He said it made him a zombie. So they took him off of it, and he just kind of suffered with the ADHD. He just didn't want to take the medication. But other than that, I mean, I've never really had an experience with autism at all. What helps them thrive, what doesn't. I've learned that all covering this case. I feel like a lot of parents really brought me into their world and let me know, just how wonderful and beautiful their child is, and the different things, and how smart they are, how really smart they are. Their body is, or their they explained it to me, and I don't want to misspeak, but it sounds like their intellect is a younger intellect, but they pick up on things very quickly. They're ultra smart. So because I was always having a misunderstanding or a misconception, because on one hand everybody's saying that he was excelling very, very well, but on the other hand we were hearing that he had a childlike brain, and I kept saying, well, how is he excelling really well with a childlike brain? And people were explaining it to me, and that's kind of the understanding that I have. What do people think about the FBI being involved? Do you guys feel like this has something to do with possibly state line issues, or maybe the thought that family members out of state might be, taking care of him while he's away from home? I don't quite understand the bridge search idea. Like, are you thinking remains would be stuck below and you'd see them? No, no, tough love bug. So I trying to identify bridges in the area that meet a certain criteria of mine. And those, we need to get boats underneath them to check them. So it's just, right now, it's just identifying potential search areas and then coordinating the actual search of those search areas. The reason why I think, I want to look at the bridges is because there have been water searches, isolated water searches in very specific areas, and there were some private searchers that went out there to search certain areas. But there's a vast amount of trees and land, there's also a vast amount of waterways. And when we discuss, they're just the one thing that has been undersearched, in my opinion. And I just think that if it'd be great just to clear those out of people's minds. I know that it's definitely weighing on my mind that, they haven't been readily searched like I think that many of these things should. You have to remember, I was out there in Texas when they found Audrey Cunningham. And so it's something we need to look at, and I'm hoping that nothing is found, of course, but it's something that needs to be cleared. And in my opinion, if we've got land searches, we need to have equal water searches, because there is lots of land out there and there's lots of water out there. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Not another one I didn't know. I pray and look up. Thanks for spreading awareness. I just pray one day not a single innocent angel will ever suffer. God, protect your innocent babies. Please, I pray in your holy name. Thank you. Just another patriot. I appreciate that. That's beautiful. But a lot of parents give their kids medication just to put them to sleep because they don't like to bother with them, because these children don't understand limitations and boundaries. And that did come across multiple interviews, Mm-hmm. The limitations and boundaries was definitely a hot button. And we noticed that just about every interview. And I think we all pointed it out. And yeah, I have to agree that there may be some truth to that in this case, but we don't know. Why you just asked Seth? He's a father. He knows what he's on. These people don't. I try as much as I can possibly try and not to pry too much in private information, because I guess it never hurts to ask, or, the types of medication, maybe not what medication he's on, but maybe some types of medication, the sleep medication, an anxiety, maybe he can just be very general in nature, just help us guide us. It's just, I don't know, it just seemed like people had a problem talking about the medication. I didn't see why, because in all fairness, how are we supposed to help if we don't know how he's going to be behaving, in knowing whether he has medication or doesn't have medication, or what the effects of him not being on his medication are, would help, in my opinion. But it just seemed like a sticking point, not necessarily for Seth. I don't think he was ever asked, but we definitely know that the question has been asked, and it was met with a lot of resistance. I've had my baby in speech since he was 2. And he was beyond his years in certain tests, but his social receptive and external sensory was delayed. Okay, thank you. There's no treatment or cure. You're only treating other issues that may exist because of the chromosome deletion. Okay, gotcha. I thought they were involved from the beginning, just not taking the lead. Sumner must ask them to lead. Maybe, we don't know. If that's the case, I'm hoping that, well, see, the FBI doesn't really give that many updates. They don't really do anything. So I'm interested. I wish somebody would just give the public an update, just how many leads that have been, cleared, how many, just, normal run-of-the-mill stuff that will just help guide, If we need to look at another place, if we need to post flyers in different areas, just point the way, we're here to help. And I don't know, I just wish somebody would just let Seth have the comfort of knowing one question, and it seems very reasonable. Are they further along today than they were on February 26th? I don't know. It's upsetting because you see these families struggle through this time, when it's a criminal investigation. It's no fun. It's no fun for anybody, and it's definitely no fun for the family. They feel left out. They feel abandoned. They feel hopeless. They feel helpless. And, you just sit on the sidelines and watch them struggle. It's just excruciating for me to watch, excruciating for our audience to watch. It's excruciating for the world to watch. It's just excruciating. And, at the end of the day, I just want Seth to have some peace of mind in the investigation. That's really it. I don't really want the information. If I find the information, I want it to be through shoe leather work. It keeps me in good graces with everybody. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I still want the innocent family to know what's going on. Even if they can't talk about it, at the end of the day, we just want them to get the answers, and that's where we are here. Is we just want him to have a few answers. We don't want them. I don't want to broadcast them. I don't want to ask Seth about them. I just want him to get them. What about the family? I know she had a bad childhood, what you said, but I think she really didn't care what happened. There's a lot to peel back. There's a lot to peel back with. That's a definitely a question. I feel like FBI reward may be linked to recent trafficking bust. which I think they may have resulted in the general investigation of Sebastian. I'm not there yet. I haven't. Studying the trafficking thing, when they're taking kids, they're taking them from public places when their parents' heads are turned. They're very clever and distracting one person while somebody else just snatches the child. This is not the case. It's very rare. I mean, we have the Elizabeth Smarts. We have, the other cases where it does happen at home in their bed, but there's usually signs and evidence that somebody came in. I'm not sure, like even with Elizabeth Smart, it was the handyman. They were having some work done to their house, if I'm not mistaken. Like he ran into her. He had some type of connection. Here, we have a situation where this child is very much sheltered, doesn't have a lot of internet time, very isolated and sheltered. I guess is just the best way to. So it just makes it hard in my mind how they would have gotten a hold of him to traffic. That's the problem, because usually they're younger children. I don't know. You'll have to maybe send me an email and tell me what you're thinking, because maybe that'll help me understand so I'm not misspeaking about the trafficking thing. Maybe I just need to see what you're basing that upon. It was one of the earlier interviews. I was shocked when he said it. Can someone tell me where the interview is? Or he said no one will find him. This is a case. Oh yeah, I remember that. This will be a case that's studied for years. How does he know? It unnerves me. It unnerves me. What about good old Dog the Bounty Hunter? He thinks Sebastian is still living. I highly doubt it. Those parents know exactly where the boy is. The cameras don't lie. I think we've been talking about this for a little bit, but I think they're kind of, from what Nick says, they're coming in 7 months, so they're fresh eyes, right? So they're going to be going back to the very beginning of this case. And they've got to do a lot of work to get up to where we are now. Their position may change as they dive into this case. This, basically what he said is that they don't have any information that leads them to believe. But again, they're just now starting their investigation into this case. And so we have to let them do their investigative work the way they do it, to start coming up with some of their theories, speculation, criticism, where they can opine. And I think it's going to be, a little, I don't think it's going to take them too long. I think they're going to get caught up to snuff. And quite frankly, I think they have some ideas in their mind of what they think happened already. So now it's one of those things where they have to either prove it or debunk it, fact find, So I think if any investigative body, whether it's a law enforcement, a government investigative body, private investigative body, investigative journalists, they all have their processes of investigation. So I just think that this is his process. And so we just have to trust his process, because this is how he works. And again, I'm not going to be providing them any of my work. I will, if asked to do so. But I want them to follow their own leads and see, because at the end of the day, I want to see if we're on the right track, right? You've got a major professional here that does this work for a living. He's been doing it for many years in front of the spotlight. And I want to see the work and where that work leads them. And, if it's not leading them down the road that I feel like I want to know why. What did I miss, When you have these things, you always have to learn. You got to have open minds. You got to be willing to learn new things. And there may be something I missed. There may be something I didn't take on, I didn't listen to or take into consideration. Because at the beginning of this, when day 8 and on, it it hit, and it was just, so much stuff was coming out. And there's got to be some things that were missed, by all of us, that we just didn't pay attention to or wasn't important to us at the time, which is one of the reasons why I'm always going back to the interviews and checking those interviews out. So, anyways, guys, take care. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to see if there's any other questions. Oh, hey, Sonina, it's nice to see you, my love. When I worked at the hospital, we could see medications filled by insurance, but not if the patient paid cash for the medication. Yes, but they have to have a record at any, pharmaceuticals are highly regulated and highly restricted. So the pharmacies, they would have to have records of that. Those go into a database that I'm confident that, our health departments have access to. Why do that guy like to talk? He knows Sebastian is fine and is being hinted. Does he know more information? I think they're just starting on this investigation. I think they have to, because think about it. When we first started this case, we didn't know what to think. We didn't just jump on that, something's wrong here, We didn't feel comfortable, but we wanted to, see how everything played out. It was like 2 weeks, and it was after Olivia's interview that I kind of came off the fence. I was riding the fence hard. I didn't want to put blame on anybody. I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to do that. But when you start hearing major changes in the story, those, to me, doing this stuff is major red flags. Major. I've never received a second story. Just give you guys, just the truth. I've never received a second story from Seth. You know what I'm saying? Like, his story has always been the same. Nothing has been added to his story. Nothing. Nothing's been added. Nothing's been removed. We do not have that issue in the storyline with Seth Rogers. My opinion began after Smiley. Yeah, everybody had their opinion. Mine began after Chronicles of Olivia. I remember I got through 3 minutes of her live, and I called her immediately. I'm like, they lied to you. And she's like, what? She didn't watch anything. She was just out in the area, and somebody asked her to go over there and interview. Had it all set up, had been speaking to him. So she was going in there like she normally does. She always goes in there to help a family and to do a beautiful piece that will help draw people in. And of course, she didn't disappoint. And so when I called her, she had no idea about the green shirt interview. I had not even looked at the Dutch's. I didn't even know. I was completely unaware of Dutch's first or second interview with them. So that was when it turned for me. That's when I started going back and looking at things and making sure. And it's like, yeah, these are some major changes in the story. And, I'm like, I didn't make them. So I didn't end up hearing what the story was with DCF, us being called on Seth about Sebastian. He never. I'm not sure. That was like, I think, back in California, and I think that was because he had, if I had to recall, it was what those whole court papers were, is because he felt his son wasn't getting the right treatment, and he was getting frustrated. And it had something to do with them trying to teach him the alphabet. He knew the alphabet or something. I can't remember. I really can't remember. But it sounded like it wasn't anything. It was disgruntledness more so than anything, raising of a voice. What time was the video of them leaving the Texas Roadhouse? Was that ever? It wasn't ever released. But I'm thinking, if I remember Seth, he talked about it, and he was able to see his son that night, and that's what he wanted to do. And I believe he said it was around 6:30, if I'm not mistaken, because I remember back in the day, I had calculated it to where they would most likely have been arriving at home around 6:40 to 6:42. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for joining. Thank you for participating. We're still on this case. I am, I don't want to get too far from our other cases that we covered. I know they kind of died out a little bit, but that's because they have court proceedings. It sounds like several of our cases are starting to have some more activity in court. So we're going to be monitoring those and keeping you guys up to date on all the cases that we've been covering, monitoring and watching as they start proceeding to trial. It's going to be definitely an interesting end of 2024, and it's definitely going to be a lot of ups and downs and a lot of court hearings for 2025, especially with Brian Kohberger. We haven't started raising money just yet. We need to start raising money for that, but I was hesitant on doing it because I was kind of bouncing back and forth whether I wanted to go there, whether I wanted to go there for the entire trial, or whether I just wanted to go there for a week or two during the trial and then monitor the trial from the office. So I didn't want to put an amount until I knew what I wanted to do and budgeted the cost to find out what it is. And of course, we've got the court stuff going on for me right now. And I'm hoping that this is all resolved on Tuesday and we can get back to life as normal by Wednesday and just, be working back again. This is distractions after distractions after distractions. And we need all eyes on Sebastian. We don't need eyes on Tony. We don't need eyes on Seth. We don't need eyes on Bullhorn Betty. We need to keep all eyes on Sebastian Rogers. We need to be victim focused. We need to start thinking outside the box. This boy is here. We can't make any mistakes because clearing an area is just that. It's a check in the right box. It's making sure that all ground, in sea are covered. So it's not a waste of time, even if you don't find anything, because at least this is another area that's cleared. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about, because the more stuff you can clear, the more places you can start honing in on. So keep the prayers going, not just for Seth and Sebastian and in this case, but our other cases, and also our family members in chat that are struggling with their own issues, their own things going on in their own life as they help with these cases as well. We all could use prayers. We could all use uplifting. And always remember, stay off the hate channels. It is not worth the drama. It's not worth the anxiety, and it's not worth the frustration. Arguing with idiots just make you look like idiots. So anyways, guys, you take care. God bless you, and we will see you soon.